My personal interests are in youth and education. I mean, it's a bit cliche to say that, but the youth are the future of the world. But I think one very important point to remember when you're trying to improve the state of the world is that whatever you're thinking of has to be practical. And we just had a session in the morning, just before I came down here, about what's the best way for the recommendations that the YGL community makes to the WEF, how to make these recommendations practical. I think that's very, very important, because there are a lot of big ideas, but to actually make something practical, I think that is the key. I mean, just in my area where education is concerned, the YGL has a very interesting initiative where they go into third world countries, especially in Africa, and they deworm children. And it all came from a consulting type of analysis on what is the best way to improve the rates of children going to school. And they found that one of the biggest impediments to children attending school was actually worms, and not any other thing that you would have actually thought of. So by deworming children, you drastically increase the rates of children attending schools in countries where worms are actually a very big problem. And I think that's a very good example of how practicality actually impacts a big change. I think what's special about the YGL is that it brings together so many achievers from all over the world, from so many sectors of society. So each of us have got domain knowledge, both geographically as well as industry specific. So by bringing together such knowledge and sharing such knowledge, we are able to come up with ideas that we're not actually able to come up with by ourselves. But more importantly, because we all have access to our own networks and our own hubs of influences in our countries and in our industry, we are able to translate those ideas into action. I think that's very important as well. Especially with the spread of the internet, I think education will become less top-down, as it has been in the last century, in the last decades preceding, and more a sharing of knowledge between youth of the world. And education will become more of an organic process from the grassroots, and it's something that the YGL has been talking about. It's about how change comes from the grassroots. And I think that grassroots education, spontaneous education, education where communities around the world interact with each other, learn from each other, and break down the barriers of communications, to reduce misconception, and to bring the world closer together. I think that would be probably the future of education.